keep working with the toes and the hips and a couple other poses. And really want to just invite you that when we're somewhere where it's like, notice this practice when you get somewhere where it's like there's nothing happening, there's nothing for you to do, you're just kind of like there. And notice the points in practice where we come in to something or moving to something and naturally your brain is interested in what's happening, or it feels like, oh, there's something productive, that it can work with what's happening. Because more and more we want to cultivate getting ourselves into those spaces where our brain naturally is like interested and inquisitive about what we're doing physically, and feels like, oh, I could do this, and like it is participating with you, versus when we get into places in our practice where it's just like, okay, like there's no work happening, there's nothing interesting, the mind starts to go to the past and the future and really isn't present. And it's not that we need to work to be present, other than we can do our practice in such a way that has presence be what is. Okay? And notice those moments where you don't even know what's happening, but you smile because there's something interesting happening that you, as the observer, are like interested in. Okay, so enough philosophy. Let's get going. So we're going to come to standing, and in standing, just kind of bounce it out, kind of shimmy and shake the legs. A couple of inhale, exhales. Maybe bob the shoulders. Wave the feet forward and back or side to side. Just going to land on your mat. And then once we're here, we're just going to start to play with the 4 toes on both feet. Yaw them to the right and let the hips move side to side in response to the direction of the toes. Then yaw them to the left. Yaw them to the right. Yaw them to the left. So we can start to feel this motion that kind of happens further up the chain. Okay, then come to stillness. Now, instead of the 4 toes, think big toe, and it spins to the right, both of them, and then they spin to the left. And again, just feel the motion that kind of happens in your legs. It might be side to side, it might not be side to side. It might be kind of a semicircle that happens. But almost imagine if someone was there holding onto your toes and they turn them both. Just like a knob on the radio. Okay, shake that out. Now, instead of letting the hips start to sway, we're going to keep the hips here. Find your athletic stance so that the heels are, the skin of the heel's on the ground, but the bone of the heel isn't squishing the skin of the heel. And if you know your up leg, you're going to take the 4 toes on both feet and bend them in the direction of your up leg. Mine's my right. And let it have you take a step. If you don't know the direction of which leg is your up leg, your right or your left, that's fine. Do a couple to the right. Notice what happens. Do a couple to the left. Notice what happens. If you know your up, down leg, you're going to bend them in the direction of your up leg. tomorrow in class we're going to do a few more things that have it become more clear to us which is our up leg, which is our down leg. So instead of staying on the spot, we're going to let ourselves be moved. Now, the other thing we're going to do is as we yaw those toes to the direction of the up leg, for me that's to the right, we're also going to let the torso pitch forward. Let the torso fall forward. You see how very easily we can just get ourselves moving, okay? One more time. Yaw the toes. You almost might find that you're like running in your space. That little bit of input. Okay, come back to where you are and just try out a couple of different things here. So one is we're going to stand on a leg and think of standing up nice and tall. And then we're going to take that other leg, bend the knee, and just swing it. Swing it forward and back. And just kind of feel how that feels. Let it go. So we're going to do the same swing with that leg, but this time squat down a little bit on that leg. Instead of standing up tall, get a little squatted, kind of athletic stance on that leg, and then swing the other leg. You might think of yawing the toes towards the stance leg as the leg goes forward and away from it as it swings back. And you don't have to hold the stance foot firm. You can feel pressure change to different spots of that foot. Good, let it go. So the stance leg was working there as we were swinging that other leg. So again, stand up straight to start with on that other leg and swing. And notice if you hold your torso still, if you hold the leg straight, kind of where you feel the work or how that is, shake it off. Get an athletic stance on that stance leg. And you're going to let things move. Again, you might think of yawing the toes towards the big toe as the foot comes forward and away from the big toe as it goes back. Okay, let that go. So, just roll through the feet. Forward and back a little bit. Now I want you to think when you go to roll back to your heel, I want you to become aware of your anus, of your butthole. So as you roll to the heel, think of sending the anus or butthole straight back behind you. Low back also follows the anus. Low back might arch a little bit. So wave to the ball of the foot as you wave back onto the heel. Good. The next time you go back, pause there. Okay? And then we're just going to pitch the hips down towards the heels. Let the heels lift if they need to. Stand yourself back up. Rock through the feet. When you get to the heels, anus and low back go back. Then we're going to take the anus, swing it around towards the heels, let the heels lift whenever they need to. We're going to come back up. Okay, one more time. Rock back to the heels, anus and low back go back. As the hips swing down and around, stand it up. Heels do not have to stay planted on the ground. Okay? Let's take the feet a little wider and let the feet turn out a little bit. Same thing, just waving from the ball of the foot to the heel. And as you get to the heel, again, think anus and low back, go back. Why anus? You knew exactly what I was talking about. No? Wasn't hips, wasn't sit bone, wasn't pelvis, but we all know, I know exactly where my anus is. And when I'm watching you guys on video, you're doing exactly what I want, which is a great, great hip hinge, okay? So the next time the hips go back, anus and low back go back, pause there. Okay, do whatever you need to do with your arms. We're gonna swing the anus forward, stand it up. So this time with the legs a little bit wider in a different configuration. Let's just do that 2 more times. Rock to the ball of the foot, heels. When you go to the heels, anus and low back go back. This next time they go back, pause there, swing them around, stand it up. The heels can come off the ground whenever they need to. Okay? One more time. Roll through the feet. When you get to the heels, really think, reach anus and low back back. Swing the anus and low back under you. So at the bottom, anus is pointing directly at the floor. And then we come up. Okay? Walk those feet in a little closer. No, I lied. Stay back out here. We're going to do that one more time, but we're going to do something a little bit different when we come up this time. Okay? So again, roll through the feet. When you get to the heel, anus and low back, going back, pause there. We're going to swing them around. Let the heels come off the ground when they need to. So now we're in a malasana or deep squat position here, okay? You're going to hold on either to your shins or your big toes, whatever it is. Shimmy and shake a little bit. The torso, the hips, the legs. So you really get so that the anus is like right to the ground. Okay? Then from there, we're going to start to press through the legs, lift the hips, but keep the torso and thighs connected. So we end up in a forward fold. Okay? Note where anus and low back are here. Heel toe the feet in hip distance apart and just roll up 1 vertebra at a time. Roll the shoulders once you're up there. Okay, we're going to shift our weight onto right leg. Again, find an athletic stance in that right leg. Left leg, you're going to swing it back. As it comes forward, you're going to place that shin across the thigh. So it's back, swing it forward, place the shin across the thigh. One more time, swing it back, forward, catch it, shin on the thigh. Okay? Think anus and low back reaching back as you lower down and pitch the torso forward. Heap. You need to hold on to something, go ahead. So we've got external rotation, deep hip flexion here. And then we're going to make our way up and back to standing. onto that other leg. Find that athletic stance. Again, we're going to swing that leg back and then catch shin on the thigh. So we have to yaw that thigh to the right. Yaw it to the right as it pitches forward. You might find yawing the toes to the right also help. Yaw the toes away from the big toe. Next time you catch that thigh, think anus and low back, go back as the torso pitches forward and you come down into that standing figure 4 stretch here. Okay, and then we're going to come on up, both feet onto the ground. If you've got blocks, or you can set up a chair at the front of your mat. Something to just bring the ground up to you. Okay? So coming back onto that right leg, I'm going to pitch that left leg back, and then yaw the toes away from the big toe, the thigh, catch that shin. Do it 2 more times. Next time you catch that shin, stay there, anus and low back, go back as the torso pitches forward. Reach your chair seat or your blocks, okay? We're gonna reach into those. Maybe the shin rests on the upper arms, maybe not. And let some weight pitch onto the hands. So the hips, anus and butthole lift up to the ceiling here. So we're in this figure 4, forward fold. Anus and low back, back to the wall behind you. You're going to come up and come on back to standing. Okay, how are we doing? Okay. Now, if catching that shin, like if that's not in the wheelhouse today, we can use something else to catch the shin. Okay, so set yourself up. If you need something other than your thigh, or the top of your knee, the bottom of your thigh, to catch your shin, set it up. Because then we can still work everything else here. Okay? And think about it less of getting the leg up, and it might need to be more of the stance leg getting under to catch the shin too. So sometimes you feel like, oh, this isn't coming up high enough. It becomes more about rotating this back to catch it. Does that make sense? So notice where your focus is. Is your focus more on getting it up or more on getting under to catch it? And does a change in that focus have you experience rotations in the pose itself differently? Okay, so once you catch it with your thigh or your chair here, hands come to the chair, back or to the blocks. And again, it might be that the shin rests just above your elbows. It might be that your weight starts to shift forward onto the hands and you can feel your hips pitching up towards the ceiling. The rotations rotate you forward, which send the hips up. Okay, sit it back down, come on out, and come on back standing. And sometimes it's that letting yourself rotate forward, right, that gets us a lot more length through this stuff. This shouldn't cause any tweakiness in the SI at all. If it is, we got to change some things. Yeah, that's it, Debbie. Any questions, those of you that are on? Good, okay. Are you experiencing some different kind of sensation and positions with the leg externally rotated that are new? That's it, and nice. Okay. And bringing the hands onto the blocks on the chair is optional. Don't have to get there. If you are there, this next one, the one thing I want you to do is roll your yoga mat this time. So like we did a while ago with push-ups, you're going to put the blocks on at whatever height is working for you that has the ground rotate into you. That has the ground rotate into you. Okay? Sometimes that's just coming up to a higher surface. Right? This higher surface puts a rotation back into me. Make sense? So we want to set it up so the ground's rotating back towards us. Okay? So just wave through the feet and legs. Let the torso pitch forward and back. Settle onto a leg. That other leg, bend the knee. You might yaw the toes away from the big toe and then towards the big toe as it comes in front. The next time it comes in front, you're going to catch it. Okay. I'm going to send anus and low back back. So my torso can pitch forward and I can get my hands on those blocks that are now rotating towards me. Again, I might find my shin onto the backs of my elbows. And as I shift my weight forward, feel how my hips come up. Might have my foot that's on the ground get lighter, lift up even a little bit. And then shift back towards the heel of that standing foot. Okay. Bring that foot back underneath. So a little chair pose here. I'm going to switch to the other side. Again, swing the leg back and forward a couple times. The yawing of the toes towards the big toe and away from the big toe can help get the leg swinging so you're not trying to swing the leg from your hip joint. Move from the toes, catch it on that thigh. Anus and low back, reach back. Might be that you're here and you play with the pitch down of the torso and up of the torso. The pitch down of the torso and up of the torso. Or you reach your chair and your blocks. Shin might find the upper arm bones just above the elbow, and you start to shift the weight forward and back. So you feel how the anus and low back get pitched up
more towards where the wall and the ceiling connect, and pitched back towards the wall behind you. Yee! Almost feels like you might be able to take that foot off the ground. Step that back. Little chair pose here. And then just wave the feet to come back up to standing. Pause there in standing. Just notice what you notice. You could also walk around your space and just notice what you notice. Okay? Kind of consider through that sequence the moments where it felt like, this is interesting, that's a new sensation, like I wanted to move in this direction, or where you felt like I have nowhere to go, I'm against a wall. And again, I'm going to invite you to, on another day this week, like revisit something about the practice that had you go, oh, that was interesting, like there was somewhere for me to kind of work there that I'm curious about, okay? We're going to come down onto our knees. You can unroll the yoga mat. Actually, I said we're going to come onto our backs. Check the time. Keep your blocks handy. Okay, so actually I fibbed again. Come up to sitting before you come down onto your back. You guys are there. You guys are there with me. Okay, so in sitting, similar to what we did at the start where we were coming into that like deep squat. In a sitting position here, you can take the legs out to the side, feet can be on the floor, could just be heels on the floor. But I want you to kind of wiggle and waggle, forward, back, side to side, your torso. You might grab onto your shins or knees and get again where it's like your butthole is straight down to the ground. You're sitting right on your butthole. Okay? Now, from this place of sitting on the butthole, I want you to let the butthole be what moves the legs. So we've done this move before, but with a focus on the legs. So we're going to take our upper body and our butthole and spin it to the left. So then we're going to spin to the left, so the butthole actually ends up pointing to the right and down. Okay? Now, from a butthole focus, start to bring the butthole back so it's facing directly the ground. Keep spinning to the right as the butthole looks kind of towards the left. Okay? Again, spin, find where you're right on that butthole. If you need to wiggle and waggle there, because we've kind of moved by going side to side, get right up on your butthole. And again, it's about moving around the butthole, and then the butthole is pointed back behind us to the right. And we're going to come to the buttholes right to the ground again. Then we're going to spin. Notice where the butthole goes. Even accentuate it, like that you want it to shine kind of back in the direction of that heel behind you. Let your low back arch. Find directly down to the ground. Like maybe this was, I was like, I don't know why, but what came to me was like a space laser. Just like straight down. I do not necessarily believe in aliens. I don't not believe in aliens, but this is just Okay, one more time to each side with the focus on the butthole and the low back moving to move you. Okay? Butthole and low back moving to move you. And then the next time you come through center, reposition yourself again, right up, right on that butthole. And then from there, bring the feet, the soles of the feet towards one another. But where those feet go are going to be dictated by your ability to stay sitting right on your butthole. So the soles of the feet might come together, they might be further out, one leg might be more in than the other. Okay, but I want you to come where you're not on your sit bones, but you feel like you're sitting right on your butthole. Okay? Good. Okay, so now we're going to pitch the torso forward. Anus and low back, reach back. It's almost like we're trying to put our belly button through the floor in front of us. And then let yourself come back, sit right up on your butthole. Okay? Again, we're going to go forward, but this time kind of a bit of offset. So I want you to think about your right side of your butthole and low back, going back, and you actually coming off to the left. The torso pitches off to the left slightly. And then right up on the butthole again. This time, butthole and low back are going to reach to the left, pitching the torso slightly to the right. Think of your belly button coming towards your, like, the ground just behind your right heel or to your right ankle bone. And then back up. We're going to stand the butthole and just flap the legs. You could use the hands to help flap them. You could use the yaw of the toes towards and away from the big toe. Good, okay. Sitting up in that butthole, one last thing we're going to do. Straighten your legs out. And come into like a wide-legged position here. Okay? And then I want you to pitch your torso forward. And just feel where you reach that kind of like stretch sensation. Notice if you're able to just like drop into it. Some people can like get their torso right to the floor. I'm not that some people. Okay, and then walk yourself back up. And you're going to fold those legs back up. Wiggle and waggle yourself so that you are sitting right on your butthole again. Holding on to the shins or to the feet. This shin and foot end of your leg is going to reach out. Simultaneously, we're going to take the butthole and the low back and reach it back behind us. So if the butthole and low back stop rotating behind us, pitching the torso forward, or the legs stop being able to reach out, that's your end point. So the legs might get straight, they might not get straight. Okay, but just feel where you run into a sensation of stretch here, having gone in with kind of this idea of rotating ourselves into the pose. Good. And where there's some place for for you to work, rather than just kind of feeling like you've run out of room. Okay? Let's come on to our backs now. Make sure you've got some space beside your mat. We're going to come on to our back. So just take a second once you're on your back to notice what you notice. Just observe as the breath breathes you. Okay. We're gonna bring the knees in towards the chest here. So we call this a happy baby. And just wiggle the toes a little bit. And I want you to play with just letting the body move. If you take the 4 toes on both feet and bend them to the right, just feel what that does. It might move you, it might not move you. And then let yourself rock back onto your back if it moved you. And then you're going to yaw all the toes, the 4 toes on both feet, to the left. And again, notice if it moves you or doesn't move you. As you yaw the toes, you might think of letting the shin yaw in the opposite direction. So maybe you just pay attention to one leg right now, and you think the 4 toes are going to yaw away from the big toe, and the shin is going to yaw towards the big toe. And then come back onto your back. And go to the other leg. The 4 toes are going to yaw away from the big toe, and the shin's going to yaw towards the big toe. Now, I just want to check in with those of you on the call. Is that action having you roll away from the foot and the shin that you're doing stuff with? And we match. You can give me a thumbs up. I just noticed. Kinda, sorta. Yeah. Okay. Does it on one leg more than the other? Okay. And so we're here. Okay. And then Debbie, what about you? Okay. You can answer later. Might be having technical difficulties. Okay. So we're going to add the fingers in as well. Okay. So what we're going to do with the hands is reach them up, and I want the fingers on the hand of the leg. Again, they're going to yaw away from the thumb, away from the big toe. And that should feel like it starts to roll you. Away from the direction those fingers are yawing. Fingers and toes. Okay, and then let's go on the other side. Ya. One thing I just noticed on that side when I was going, let's go back to that first side, is the elbow and knee on that side you're rolling towards, think of like bending them. in towards one another. So that when we get rolled over, it's like the bottom side of our body is cinched short and the top side of our body is a little bit longer, if you will. And let's go one more time each side, focusing too on that bending the knee and the elbow, bring them towards the floor. So as we yaw the toes and the fingers, they help get us over. Good. Okay, bring those feet to the ground. Again, just notice what you notice here on your back. Okay, so the feet are up in the air again. So we're gonna add a piece on here. So as the right toes yaw away from the big toe, I'm gonna let also then pitch my hip back behind me, or my thigh, right? So as I yaw those toes, I'm gonna swing that leg behind me. And then I'm gonna swing that leg forward to help roll me back onto my back. So right leg, the 4 toes, yaw away from the big toe. Pitch that knee behind you, and then pitch the knee forward again to pull you back onto your back. Good, one more time. Right, yaw the toes, pitch the leg behind you, and then pitch the leg in front and cross the ankle over the knee. So you roll onto your back into a figure 4. So we're here, yaw, pitch. Yeah, good. Bring that foot to the floor, release it. Let's try it one more time on that right side. So the 4 toes yaw away from the big toe. We take that knee, pitch it back, then pitch it forward, catch it with the thigh. That foot could come to the ground. Okay, let's try that on the left. So feet come up, left 4 toes. We're going to yaw away from the big toe. Pitch that knee behind and then swing it forward. Catch that ankle, foot on the thigh. You can place that foot on the ground. One more time on this side. Yaw those toes. Pitch that leg behind, just like we did in standing. Now I'm going to swing it forward, cross it over, bring that foot to the ground. Good. Now this next time we're going to go through on each side. You can bring that foot to the ground after you catch the foot, or once you catch the foot, you could bring that thigh to the chest, the elbows towards the shin. Take an inhale, exhale there, and then bring the leg to the ground. Okay? So let's go through it on the right. Legs are up. You could also keep one leg on the floor, so the left leg could stay on the floor if you want. And we're going to yaw those right toes away from the big toe. Pitch that thigh back, pitch it forward, cross it over. Good. Bring that thigh up into the chest. Think of bringing the elbows towards the shin. Do a little crunch up towards the ceiling, and then place that leg down and cross. Okay, we're going to go through once on the other side. Again, foot can be on the ground, or you can have it lifted up. I like it lifted up better, so you have more freedom to move. I'm going to take those toes, yaw them away from the big toe, pitch that thigh back, and then forward, bringing myself into that figure 4 position. Bringing the shin towards my torso, reaching up, bringing my elbows towards the shin. Taking a couple of breaths here. Think about breathing back into the mat, and then relax it down. Relax that foot to the ground, uncross. Good. So we can use the yaw of the toes all to the right or all to the left with the feet on the ground to just start to take the legs side to side. Let the torso do what it does. Let the shoulders do what they do. Just start to experiment with what you do with your arms, where you take your gaze to extend that movement that's coming from the feet and take it all the way out to the fingertips. And then feet on the ground, we're gonna lift the hips just a little bit and shift the hips to the right. So we'll come down onto our left buttock or kind of left hip. Yeah. And then we're gonna bring the knees up into the chest so the feet come off the floor, and we're gonna take the knees down and to the left, coming into a twist. You don't have to keep your right shoulder pinned to the floor. Let it go where it goes. Just coming into a supine twist here. Maybe you take your left arm and rest it on the top thigh. And then take that arm that is in the trailing position, so that shoulder that we rotated away from, circle it overhead, roll you right onto your side, and find a little bit of a fetal position here, okay? And then bring that hand onto your forehead, the top arm, and we're gonna open up like a book. So taking the gaze and the arm away from the direction those two knees are pointing. Maybe you yaw the four toes on both feet towards the ground. Okay, and then roll back onto your side. And take everything to roll yourself back onto your back, knees bent, feet on the floor. Again, just lift the hips a little bit. Shift them to the left, so you come down onto the right hip. And then you're gonna bring both knees to the right. And you could use your right hand to hold on to that left thigh. Let the left shoulder be where it wants to be. Maybe that left hand wants to be on the left low ribs. Maybe the head wants to look to the right or to the ceiling or to the left. And again, you might yaw all the toes on both feet, the four toes on both feet, to the right, to the floor. That trail left arm, you're going to circle it overhead, rotating you into the fetal position, facing the right. And then bring that left palm onto the forehead, elbow reaching out from the shoulder, and then opening up the shoulders and the chest, just like a book, taking the head and the arm to the left. They don't need to come to the ground. Take a couple of breaths here. And then close the book. Roll yourself onto your back. Extend those legs out. Maybe wiggle and waggle the pelvis, or the feet, or the legs, or the toes. You shimmy the shoulders. Just take a second here. Either with the legs straight, or you could bend the knees. Just check in. Then we'll set up in Shavasana. So if you want to slip socks on so your feet are warm, or you want to get a blanket or something for under your knees, take a moment now to do that. Before we settle into our final Shavasana, I'm going to invite you to heel toe the feet out so they're kind of maybe as wide as the mat. And then let the knees come in towards one another. If having the thighs and the knees rest on each other is too narrow, feel free to turn the toes out and or put a block or a blanket between the knees here. And we're just going to rest in this constructive rest position for a few minutes before we take the legs out. We did lots of, we did both internal and external rotation, but we did some longer holds in, we kind of hit both, actually, for sure. But we're just going to finish with a little restorative internal rotation here. Maybe take a second with the legs in this position and just bring the attention back to the butthole, the anus, and the low back, and you think about reaching them towards the ground and then towards the ceiling. And we're not squeezing the butthole at all. We're just using it as a reference point to direct movement. And then come somewhere in between those two extremes and just rest here for the next 5-10 breaths. With your next exhalation, you can heel toe the feet closer together, let the knees come apart, and then stretch out one leg, maybe let it wiggle and waggle, and then stretch out the other leg. Again, letting it wiggle and waggle as it needs to. Take a second to just notice what direction the feet want to point. Shins want to point, the thighs want to point. Maybe you contract and relax each buttock a couple of times. Let the pelvis come to. position. Maybe you close and relax the hand a couple of times. Squeeze into a fist and then relax the hand. Maybe we finish with that, doing that, actually not finish, let's do that with the shoulders too, so like shrug them up and then relax them down, or maybe you push them towards the ceiling or the floor, but like contract the muscles around the shoulders and then relax them. And then the last thing we're gonna do is squinch up the face, pucker up the lips, and then relax. Scrunch, pucker up, and then let it go one last time. And for the next several minutes, you're simply going to observe. And let yourself drop back. Notice the sensations of the body, of the breath, of the sounds of the room around you. And you're the one noticing if there's a desire or a need or a movement towards changing something. Or going to thoughts of the past or the future. And you'll notice as you notice things, they change. And just notice when you go into stream of consciousness or a thought loop. the sensations of the body, pressure, numbness, tingling, temperature of the air on the skin. Where you slow down your inhale, starting to wiggle the fingers and toes, bringing movement back to the body. Maybe lingering a little longer in stillness. Just take your time as you make your way onto your side into the fetal position for a few breaths. And we use the hand and the arm to press yourself up. Coming to a seated position. The hands could rest in the lap. Maybe the palms come together to the left of the breastbone in Anjali Mudra. Pressing the gaze downward. Just wiggle and waggle here a little bit as you find a seat. And again, find a seat where you're sitting right on the butthole. Take a few breaths in and out to close, breathing in. A sense of awareness, attention. Breathing out, a sense of ease. Om Shanti Shanti Peace.